We're taking it back to Puerto Rico with Hispanic Heritage Month, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my Coquí fabric, the garment I made, and a little story about this little frog. I'm Mari with Mari Sews, and welcome back. In one of my previous videos, I had shown you all some fabric that I picked up. Well, one of them was a special Coquí fabric, this one right here, that I got off of spoonflower.com. Well, I did make my shirt, as you can tell, and I'm loving this thing. And it feels, let me tell you, it just feels so special because I feel like it has a piece of Puerto Rico on it. So let me tell you a little bit about the shirt, pattern, and all of that good stuff. And then I want to get into the Hispanic Heritage Month portion of this, which is the Coquí story. So let me show you some pictures. To make this top, I actually went into my patterns and searched through something that I could use my Coquí fabric as an accent piece. And that's when I came up with Simplicity 8840. And it's this pattern right here. Originally, I had bought it for this view, which is view D, with all of the pleating. But I knew that with the Coquí fabric, I wanted to do something that was gonna kind of like stand out and be loose and free. I don't want to wear anything that's too structured, but I need a little something to add some interest, right? With all that being said, I decided to do view C, which is that one that has the weird release pleats on it, and I paired it with the neckband from view B. But instead of actually doing all of those release pleats, I left them all out. I wanted all of that extra fullness in my top. I wanted something that was going to be a little breezy with me. Something that had movement, you know? So that's what I did. This top also has back, well, I guess they're darts, or are they pleats? It has some shaping in the back. And I even left all of that out. I left it all open. I cut the pattern as is. Oddly enough, the back pieces of my pattern was a lot longer than the front. It was actually like 2 whole inches longer. And I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe I cut the wrong size. I just went back in and evened it up to the front of the top. It wasn't a big deal. So some of the fun details about this top. It has a cute little tie at the sleeve. It has this really cool shaped sleeve that kind of poofs out, but it's not a bishop or a leg of mutton sleeve or any of that, because it you can see the shaping is different to it. There's a seam right down here. It's a 2-piece sleeve. I thought that was such an interesting detail, and quite honestly, I wasn't sure how it was going to look on me, but I went with it, and I'm happy I did. There's also an invisible zipper in the back. I'll pop a picture in here so that you can take a look at that. I couldn't find a matching zipper that was this green, so I went in with a brown. And honestly, I feel like it looks fine. You can't really tell it's there. Size-wise, for this top, I cut a 16 through the shoulders and the arm side, and then I graded out to the 18. I mean, overall, this top was a quick sew. It came together really nicely. I really enjoyed it. When I say quick, use that with a grain of salt, because I've been sewing for a while. So if you're a beginner sewer, just know it's going to take you a little longer, but it's going to be well worth the results. Okay, so let's get into the really fun stuff. Let's talk about the Coquí. So this symbol here, that's the Taíno symbol for the Coquí frog that's in Puerto Rico. Now, if you've ever been to Puerto Rico, at night you hear all of these little sing-songy things. You might be like, what's that? Well, it's a little itty-bitty tiny frog, and it's called the Coquí, and it goes, and they're really cute. I mean, well, they're cute until one gets into your house and you can't go to sleep at night because that thing's singing all night. A little bit of a funny story about these. I'm sure the Hawaiians aren't going to think this is so funny, but so Puerto Ricans love the Coquí. At one point, years ago, there was a shipment of nursery plants that went from Puerto Rico to Hawaii. Unfortunately, there were a couple of Coquís in those nursery plants, And so now Hawaii has like tons of cookies everywhere. The coquí's actually, I believe, an invasive species over there, which is actually a little sad. But let's talk about something that's a little happier, and let's talk about why Puerto Ricans love the coquí. Let me tell you the creation or the origin story of the coquí according to the Taínos. So one day there was a beautiful goddess who watched over the island of Borinquen, which is Puerto Rico, and she watched over the Taínos that lived there as well. She loved them. But in particular, she loved one a little bit more than the others. There was a man who she noticed was strong, tall, brave, but also very kind, and he helped the needy. He had a big heart, and she fell in love with this guy. He was a chief's son, and his name was Coquí. When Coquí would go fishing, she would bless his bounty, so that way he had tons of fish to come back, and he would always sing her praises. He'd sing them up to the sky, and he would thank her, and she loved it because he was always singing to her. Well, one day she decided she wanted to meet him, and so she turned herself into a Taíno woman and presented herself to him. And he was just overjoyed. He was thinking, who is this beautiful Taíno woman that just showed up in my life? How lucky am I? And he told her, I feel like I've known you a long time. After some conversation, she said, our hearts knew to love each other before we ever met. How sweet is that? So they spent the entire night with each other. And at the end of the night, he said that he wanted to meet her again. He couldn't go on without her. He just had to meet her. And she said, meet me here at midnight. So they go their different ways. And she's watching over him. And he is just continues to sing her praises. He is so happy that he found a woman that he absolutely loves, and he's thanking her above for it, right? Well, she's getting really excited, and she's looking forward to meeting him. But as the day progresses, the skies start to get darker, the winds start picking up and howling, and they're blowing everything around, and all of the Taínos run into the cave for protection. And they call to Coquí, 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 come with us to shelter from, from the winds and everything so that you're safe. And he refused to go to the cave. Instead, he went out in search of the beautiful woman that he was supposed to be meeting because he wanted to make sure that she was safe. Well, El Huracán, who is the god of storms, that's where the word hurricane comes from, he came through and he saw Coquí, and as she tried to come down and rescue him and save him from Huracán, he pushed her back and he grabbed Coquí and went away. And no one ever saw Coquí after that. For days the goddess cried. She was so heartbroken. She had no idea where he was. And the Taínos asked for the rain to stop because her tears were producing all of this rain. So she heard their prayers and she stopped crying, but she was still really ridden with grief. And so she thought about what she could do in his memory. And then it came to her. She created a little frog that would sing his name all night long. The Coquí. And that's the story of the Coquí. So if you ever travel to Puerto Rico and you hear the Coquí sound, think about the Little Prince. Okay, well that's all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the story and that you learned a little bit about Puerto Rico. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the box below. If you enjoyed hanging out with me today, please consider giving me a thumbs up, click subscribe, and hit that bell button so that way you know when the next videos are posted. Until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.